think I'm the only one that has difficulty with this thing. Everyone I know with the same daggone device is like, oh, it's no problem. It just works really simple. All you have to do is, yeah, it just never works for me. Never works for me. I'll figure it out. I will figure it out. 1 second. I am trying to do a balancing act right here. I can get away with doing the balancing act. Ladies and gentlemen, the balancing act. All right. I think we're in business. We might be in a second. I think we're in business. We might be in business. Hold on for a second. We might be in business. I'm working it out. How's everyone doing? Where's my Sirius Mindz? Y'all give me a second. I had to battle with the peach fuzz. Yeah. All right. I think that'll do it. Peace. What's good? What's going on, everybody? Sorry for all the rattling and the shaking and the crazy camera stuff. I had to get the phone situated. All right. Miss Johnny Black, what's up? Gemini Visions. Quan, peace. What's good with you? Just landed from Miami, but I'm here. All right. Hope your trip went fine. Yeah. Apologize for the tardiness. I ripping and running, and of course you all know I'm just recovering from trying to get my car. Just got the car yesterday, I think, and yeah, got rear-ended on my birthday. So car's been in the shop all this time. Just been trying to make it happen. All right. So of course, every year in the ATL in Georgia, you have to get a new tag, just a new sticker, not the whole tag. I couldn't get the sticker because I didn't have no car to get the sticker because the car was in the shop because I got rear-ended. So police officer actually spent, I don't know, 35, 45 seconds, pulled us over, had a conversation with him, gave him my license. He came back and says, all right, take care. It's just a warning, verbal warning. I said, yeah, I got rear-ended on my birthday when I was supposed to get the car inspected, but I didn't have a car to get the car inspected, so it is what it is. We was pulling away, and so they said, you know, I'm glad the police officer was understanding and had a conversation as opposed to, you know, seeing two black people and, you know, but we ain't paranoid like that, so it is what it is. All right. Anyway, so I wanted to do a 3-part series, if it takes that much, on this Epstein thing. And it's almost like, where in the hell do you start, man? It is just so much to unravel, unpack. Hold on. All right. Like I said, it is just too much to unpack. Anyway, shout out to Quan. Shout out to Alex Little, Cat Boogie from the BX, and of course my man Shane, Thug Life, Shakur, Miss AKA Willie Whispers. All right, Block Boy, what's good with you? So before we're gonna dive into this, man, let's do a simple roll call. I am sitting in for the sisters at the Sister Cipher, and I don't mind sitting there. And I thought I would just kind of spark off this conversation, and I'm trying to approach this Epstein thing. From a different perspective. All right. Thursday, August 29th is the part 2. I'm going to send out some information over this weekend. I've just been ripping and running, trying to get the insurance situation straightened out with. I hate dealing with them people, man. It's like, yeah. So Soleil's album is coming out on the 28th of September. We're doing a few album release parties in different parts of the country. So as you already know, that's where my head has been buried, trying to get her album done. Yeah, it's a really, 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 really good project after her coming back after all this time. You're talking about since, 1999. So yeah. All right, so yeah. All right, so Soleil's album is entitled Encoded. She changed the name from Under the Veil. I thought Under the Veil was a strong song, but it seemed like we've been hearing that song. Y'all especially been hearing that song on my platform for about a year, for real. Musicians, music has to come out when it's that time for that music to come out. It's like you can't rush things. This is not the same old industry that it used to be. This is a different industry, definitely, and we need to kind of treat it as such and deal with it as such. But all right, I had a few bookmarks. Let me see if they're still there. On what I wanted to actually kind of the angle that I wanted to come to talk about the situation with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there's several ways I was thinking about approaching it. I thought about approaching it from a deep state, exposed kind of perspective. I could approach it from the conspiratorial view. On just the whole idea of I don't really think he's dead, and come with the whole switching of the bodies and the body snatches and that kind of thing. I could come from it from a purely, strictly from a spiritual perspective, and kind of go into some things on how people sum this up, dealing with the aspects of the occult, and talk about karma and how what goes around comes around and that kind of thing. But yeah. So in case y'all don't know, so let's kind of take it from what we do know, just on the surface, without reading any reports or whatever. We've been hearing about this guy Jeffrey Epstein for a long time, and his association not only with Trump as of late, Clinton's, and a host of other people that hold positions and key positions, not only in government but in politics, and I've even heard in religion and in some other circles. So it has something to do with, and this is just on the surface, all right? It has something to do with, and I tied it in to Pizzagate, which a lot of people said they'll shut your channel down for that if you talk about X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. And I talked about Pizzagate. They didn't shut the channel down. I didn't get warnings or anything, because it is what it is. But I think there's a tie to the Mueller investigation, Jeffrey Epstein. I think there's a tie to Trump. I think there's a tie to the Clintons. I think there's a tie to a few other people in government that have followed the script to keep everything quiet. Now, if you didn't hear what I had to say about Pizzagate, go back and watch what I said about Pizzagate on the YouTube channel right here on Sirius Mindz. All right. Once again, I'm sitting in for the sisters. I would rather hear this from a woman's perspective, because we still have to ask ourselves the question, well, even if he did say or do whatever he did, who is talking about the healing for the women that were traumatized? I'm not going to be one of those individuals to say, I don't hear nobody talking about. That is so lame and fucking corny, man. Shut up. Somebody's talking about it. Just depends on who you listening to. I've heard 18 different conversations in order to piece together some of the things I'm piecing together. So it's like somebody is talking about it. We just don't know who you listening to. All right. Now, so what I'm reading as of late, now as y'all, let me finish saying what I was saying. Jeffrey Epstein ran a sex trafficking ring. All right. Especially of underage girls. All right. You can read the full story, and you can read some of the lies and the propaganda and all the stuff. Then you can put it together, flush the toilet, and see what you come up with. All right. If you just go on Google right now and you put in Epstein, a whole host of articles, news stories will come up. We have to be able to navigate through all of this. And then at the end of the day, we have to be able to say, what does this mean to us and how is that going to affect me? All right. So just from this point, working our way back, one of the questions need to be asked. I'm in the studio. It's just turned around. Someone sent me a message, said, where you at? I'm in my studio, but it's just turned around. Normally, y'all used to seeing either me sitting there doing music, or y'all used to seeing that. Yeah. So that's the wall y'all used to seeing. I'm just sitting in the opposite direction. I'm just sitting in the opposite direction today because to be honest with you, I got tired of sitting over there. Yeah, I got tired of sitting right over there. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So, thanks, Mr. Hassan Burton. Yeah, I do music. There's a few aspects about me that people, they don't know. I met someone recently and they said they didn't know I was a recording artist. I was like, wow. And the group of people that I was talking to, someone in the group basically said they didn't know I was an author and a publisher and a writer. I was like, wow, okay. All right. Somebody said they didn't know I had a comic book out. I didn't know you were in the comic books, Griff. There was a lot that you don't know about me. I'm transparent. I'm here every night. Y'all have my phone number. So yeah. Anyway. So just starting at with the basis, let's just kind of cover some bases and maybe y'all can help me out. All right. So you're right. Last Asiatic disciples. All right. Yeah, Alex, it's like if you're an artist in one area, the artistry is in you. So, the first time I've ever touched the camera, it's like I've been a photographer all my life. So yeah, I've been shooting. One day I'll show you one of the first pictures I've taken. I framed it and put it downstairs. But anyway, so from right now as we speak, moving backwards in order to move forward. Yeah, but Cat Boogie, who's the longtime companion? We need names. Let's start connecting the dots. All right. So let's dive in. Where are the victims? The victims, just from vantage point or my reference point, from what I know, some of the victims have been given hush money. Some of the victims are too embarrassed. Some of the victims are going through what traumatized victims kind of go through. You understand what I'm saying? You're right, Quan. There's a lot of other people involved. The madam, the people that knew what was going on. There is a whole host of people. You understand what I'm saying? That should be responsible for what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein and on the at the house where he had the island at and at his Manhattan estate. All right, it's almost like you can't see what kind of business this dude was doing in order to amass this kind of money to purchase an island and to have an estate. I mean, to have an estate right there in the heart of Manhattan, and one of the largest properties being owned in Manhattan is by him, as far as someplace to live. So now we got rumblings now after the so-called, someone says fake suicide attempt, and then now that he's gone, someone's talking about bodies being switched out, and now some people are talking how the guards are suspected of falsifying information. So now we're talking about this Jeffrey Epstein's autopsy report indicates that various bones in his neck were broken, including one near the Adam's apple called the hyoid bone, according to the Washington Post report. So let's just let's listen to a few clips and let's piece it together. Of course, I'm advising you to listen at what they're not saying. We understand what they're saying. Let's listen to what they're not saying. Now, you're talking about the alphabet boys, all right? Keep that in mind. And a lot of these people work hand in hand and they work together. All right? Okay.
The autopsy on Jeffrey Epstein has uncovered injuries usually found in homicide cases. The Washington Post reports there were broken bones in Epstein's neck, deepening the questions surrounding his death in jail. The injuries are more commonly associated with homicidal strangulation than suicidal hanging, the Post reported.
I am now more suspicious than ever that this could be a homicide.
Forensic scientist Dr. Lawrence Kobylinski says Epstein's age, 66, makes it more likely bones in his neck would break during a suicide by strangulation.
I think this was a suicide, and I believe the autopsy is consistent with a suicide.
And we're hearing the voice of Jeffrey Epstein in just released audio tapes.
That's what I am. I'm very comfortable in my own skin. I'm free to follow my own personality. But on my own island, I can think the thoughts I want to think.
He was interviewed by a Wall Street Journal reporter in 2003 on his notorious private island in the Caribbean, which was raided by the FBI and NYPD this week. The interview was conducted in this gazebo. When he was asked why he didn't want to talk in the main house, he said, "Too many girls."
Wow. Why don't you want to talk in your own house? Too many girls. Someone sent me a text message and why I called it Epstein's Pizza. Well, if you order a pizza, and regardless of who you order it from, depends on what you get in the pizza, but the pizza always has some key ingredients. Tomato sauce, marinated sauce or whatever, bread, and it always has cheese. Cheese is the thing that glues it together. So then they take this little sharp rolling instrument and they cut the slices, separating the pieces. There's pieces to the puzzle that if we start to begin to unravel the thing and listen closely at what they're not saying, we could put the pieces of the pie back together and see who's connected to who. You definitely got to start connecting the dots. All right. Now that's inside addition. All right. We have to be very mindful who these people are connected to. So if there is this thing called a conspiracy theory, then there's some players involved. Who are the players and who are they connected to? All right. Okay, so let's see what Donald at 46 minus 1 had to say.
Jonathan, the speech yesterday was about the economy, but as one would expect, it sort of drifted to all parts of what's happening in the presidential race and pop culture. It was all over the place yesterday.
And trucks.
And trucks and cranes.
This is what the White House staff finds them facing time and time again. The president was supposed to deliver. This was not a campaign rally. This was supposed to be just an event on the economy, touting the work he has done for Pennsylvania. It suggested the manufacturing jobs, his return to the state, and so on. And it became a more than hour-long stem winder about every subject you just touched, including his love of cranes, where he thinks the presidential race is shaping up right now, and taking credit for the plant there that he was visiting, suggesting that his administration in 2012, which was not only President Barack Obama, but President Barack Obama.
Epstein. Justice Department official now tells NBC News that a team from the Bureau of Prisons will be at the Metropolitan Correctional Center today to examine what went wrong there. We're told protocol, whenever there is a significant event at a detention facility, calls for that move. Meanwhile, an administration official tells NBC News the FBI and DOJ Inspector General, which also are investigating the circumstances around Epstein's death, are being stymied by some federal employees who are, quote, lawyering up. This comes after yesterday's news that the warden at the federal lockup has been reassigned and 2 guards tasked with monitoring Epstein have been placed on leave.
Did you hear that? The warden of the Manhattan jail where Epstein died has been reassigned. 2 guards have been placed on leave. So you're starting to see the ingredients of what I was talking about in reference to the pizza. You're starting to see the different ingredients starting to take shape. You're starting to see the circle of the pizza, the crust start to take shape. All right, the circle of friends. You use the language. It's the language of racism, white supremacy. And let's take note when we talk about my circle of friends. I got a group of people that I hang out with. It's those circle of friends. And when you can make moves like this and you can bypass cameras and padded rooms and all this other kind of stuff, and then you get your neck, bones in your neck broke and crushed and all that. Mind you, they never said how he killed himself. They said the bones in the neck being broken are consistent with someone that would commit suicide, especially at the age of 66. All right, let's listen.
Also learning more about one of the workers who was supposed to be guarding Epstein at the time. Yesterday, we reported the employee was not a full-time corrections officer.
You're guarding a high-profile individual that have been trafficking underage girls in one of the highest profiles of this year, or cases this year. And you put a person that's not even a full-time correctional officer to guard this individual? Come on. Come on, man. Come on. They said he hung himself. So if they said he hung himself, then I've worked in prison. And anytime there's an attempted suicide, all right, you're on guard 24/7, even when you sleep. All right, no shoestrings, no belts, no necklaces like this. No, absolutely nothing. By the time I ended up out of that particular line of business, so to speak, the people that I did stay in touch with, they said that the government now came up with a new thing with suicide watch, especially in maximum security prisons. They don't even give you glasses like this. The glasses that they give you are made of paper, and they just copied the lens, the strength of the lens, and it's put almost on like a, you know, the glasses that you use in a movie theater with the 3D glasses. That's the kind of glasses that they give you. All right. So if you're under watch 24/7, how is it that you could commit suicide? I know that's a question that everyone is asking, but hold on.
Now, a person familiar with the investigation tells NBC News that employee had been a corrections guard for 7 years. He then accepted a different job with better hours, but routinely took an overnight shift as a corrections officer to get overtime pay. The source would not say whether the employee was one of the two placed on administrative leave. Meanwhile, the New York Times is reporting the 2 staff members guarding Epstein's jail unit fell asleep and failed to check on him for about 3 hours, then falsified records to cover up that mistake.
I'm gonna let y'all listen like I'm listening. I'm listening between the lines of what they're not saying. They fell asleep. Now, here's a man that attempted suicide a couple of weeks earlier. All right. Now you're under watch. And then now all of a sudden, you fall asleep on the night that this man takes his life. Wow. Either y'all are really bright and smart and clever, or y'all just devilish, evil, and bold. Or both of those coupled with the fact that y'all must think we stupid. Anyway.
According to several law enforcement and prison officials with knowledge of the matter, 2 law enforcement officials telling NBC News investigators are looking at whether either or both of the employees on duty who were responsible for checking on Epstein were sleeping. They say no conclusion has yet been reached. Mike, this is unfathomable to people that at a facility like this, a federal jail, that theoretically is a maximum security kind of place with that kind of a high profile inmate, that the 2 guards could fall asleep like something out of a bad movie.
The 2 guards fell asleep and they falsified records indicating that they had checked on him every half hour, which clearly they had not. So they're in legal trouble right away. But one of the larger issues in here, though, really is the warden himself at that prison, how he allowed, or how the warden allowed, Epstein to be in a cell by himself. Normally it is protocol. Anyone who has been on suicide watch has a cellmate. For various, obviously logical reasons, you know. I mean, you alert someone if someone tries to commit suicide in the cell with you. That cellmate was removed from the cell for inexplicable reasons, as yet to be explained. Apparently, about a.
Can y'all start to see it shaping now? The cellmate was taken out. Guards fell asleep. All right. People reassigned. Warden reassigned. 2 guards on leave. 1 guard was a part-time kind of moonlighting kind of correctional facility. You see what I'm saying? You see the players. You see the pawns in the game, in the chess game. All right? You see the pieces of the pie now coming together. All right? Okay, let's finish listening.
A week or 10 days ago, and Jeffrey Epstein was alone to do the deed.
There's also such reporting. There's reporting there that the staff is so overworked that there wouldn't have time between shifts. That the guards would be so tired that some of the.
So if they fell asleep, the cameras fell asleep also. Maximum security prison. Guards fell asleep. Cameras off. No one in the room. Come on, man. Stop.
Would just sleep in their cars near the facility, as opposed to then driving home and coming back.
And I think, that accounts for perhaps the fact that they were not checking on him as often as they could have done, that some of the guards had fallen asleep, that then they felt bad, of course, so they went back and falsified the records. But it's what Mike is talking about that I think is leading rise to these conspiracy theories, because one thing is people are really tired and they do their job shoddily. Another, if it's made at a senior level, the decision that you leave us prisoner alone, and that the cellmate was moved, as I understand it, just the night before. I mean, that's what's leading people to think this is just one coincidence too many, because it looks like a decision was made very consciously that would have put this prisoner in a position where he could do this, knowing that he'd already tried to do that.
If he tried to do it one time, you're setting up an environment and a set of circumstances that he's already involved in. All right, looking at the time that he's looking at the allegations, looking at the charges that he's facing, you would leave an individual like that who already tried to commit suicide. You would leave an individual like that alone without anyone checking on him. Okay. Up next, let's see. Let's continue to listen.
Congress is now investigating the death of Jeffrey Epstein. The House Judiciary Committee launched a bipartisan investigation after the convicted sex offender was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell over the weekend.
This comes as the FBI expands its own investigation into Epstein's alleged sex trafficking ring. The 66-year-old is accused of sexually abusing dozens of underage girls. His alleged victims continue to demand justice. So
they demand justice. Underage girls. As much as America talks about, and much as these people talk about make America great again and all this kind of garbage, America fails to protect its children, all right, from people like this and the people that he was in cahoots with, all right? So we have to understand this particular dynamic and how it plays out, all right? Let's listen.
For more on this, let us bring in CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman. So, Ricky, what are some of the new details that we're learning now?
Well, we certainly learned yesterday that his means of killing himself, assuming he did kill himself without help, was by hanging. And that what he did was, once he had left Suicide Watch and got into a cell by himself, all, by the way, against the rules,
right?
That he, who is a 6-foot-tall man, managed to take a sheet, attach it to the top bunk, and then kneel down, and that's how he hung himself. The details also that have come out that I find, frankly, very disturbing.
Now, hold on. The allegations against Jeffrey Epstein now, all right? Sex trafficking and sexual abusing dozens of underage girls. All right. Now, so if the U.S. Department of Justice is investigating this, and he's already at a federal prison, I'm going to say every one more time. Every rule in this situation has been broken. Every protocol has been laxed or broken or disregarded. Let's listen.
Was the condition of how he was monitored at the MCC, which is the Metropolitan Correctional Center, on the SHU, as we call it, the Special Housing Unit, where the most high profile, the most notorious criminals or people facing possible prosecution are housed. El Chapo was on that floor. Paul Manafort is still on that floor. And in fact, if I were Paul Manafort right now, I would not be very comfortable, because you have guards, one of whom was really not a correctional officer at that point. Their excuses, they were very understaffed. They were working multiple overtimes. And so what that tells me is they were asleep. That's what it tells me.
So I'm trying to understand. I mean, could it be that Jeffrey Epstein's attorneys asked for him to be taken off suicide watch? And what would be the reason why a defense attorney would suggest to the corrections facility to remove a client who had attempted reportedly suicide in the past?
I don't want to be a conspiratorial theorist, but I can't help it in this situation.
Right.
Jeffrey Epstein was one, and my conspiracy involves no one other than Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was one of the most manipulative people that has ever been on the planet, according to all of the investigation. This was someone who didn't only allegedly use women as play toys. He had an enterprise of sex trafficking of young girls.
Enterprise. How do you pull off a whole enterprise and you're the only one being brought to justice? Who are the other players is what I want to know. That's one of the questions that first came to mind. But anyway.
I mean, it's a full enterprise. He had an apartment building where they were brought, they were interviewed, they were observed, they were given apartments. They were then sent over in a methodical way to his mansion in the East 70s. This is someone who had multiple places where he could conduct his terrible sexual activity, which, as I call it, with children. So let's follow my logic. He sees himself for the first time ever in his life that he cannot buy himself out of this, that he is now in one of the worst places, the MCC in America. El Chapo, as you may recall, filed motion after motion to get out of the SHU because the conditions were so bad. So Jeffrey Epstein says, I'm going to end this. I'm going to end my life. He attempts suicide back in July. He is not successful. He is then put on a suicide watch where it is very clear to him that he cannot commit suicide on a suicide watch because he has no means. The sheets are paper. He has no ties, no shoe ties. There is no way for him to commit suicide in a suicide cell, suicide prevention cell. So he becomes suddenly very lucid and very fine and has meetings with his lawyers. And he says, I don't want to stay in this cell anymore. I'm perfectly fine. And he could have convinced himself or his lawyers that that wasn't an attempted suicide, but was an attempted assault by his cellmate, who was the person who was a police officer from upstate who had allegedly committed 4 homicides and who had been taken away from him. He manages, perhaps...
Dude put you in a cell with a former police officer? Oh, the plot thickens. The plot thickens. Wow. 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 All right, a little bit more.
It's only a rumor that he asked his lawyers to get him back into the cell block and that he wants a cell by himself because he was afraid of this guy. Gets a cell by himself, has the ability to observe what the activities are of the prison guards, and in this process sees his lawyers on Friday night, shows them he's with them for 6 hours, shows them he's perfectly fine. They go off, they think everything is fine, and then he's dead. Now, that whole theory you could throw out the window with all the other theories. But Jeffrey Epstein, he didn't commit suicide because of someone who is in anguish. He committed suicide, assuming it was a suicide, on the basis that this was the easy way out. Now, that's one theory. There's a lot of other theories going on there. But these guards were not around every half an hour as they were supposed to be. So if his lawyers, in fact, did, which I do not know that they did, if they asked for him to be taken off of suicide watch, it was as his instruction.
Right. Exactly. Harry Harris, thank you very much, man. Really appreciate you, good brother. So let's understand the dynamic and let's understand the depth of what we're dealing with. And everyone, with the next couple of conversations we're going to have over the next few days, we're going to start piecing it together and we're going to start connecting the dots, so to speak. So to speak. So now, Jeffrey Epstein.
This morning, we're learning new details of the exact cause of death of former registered sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein. The Washington Post reports, according to 2 people familiar with the autopsy report, that Epstein sustained multiple breaks in his neck bones, including one near the Adam's apple. The Post reports such breaks can occur in those who hang themselves, particularly if they're older, but they're more common in victims of homicide by strangulation. NBC News has not yet confirmed this report. Meantime, a source close to the case tells NBC that an unidentified associate has claimed Epstein's body from the New York City Medical Examiner's office. And now, a previously unreleased...
So all of a sudden now, autopsy happens and someone claims the body? A Hollywood writer, a Hollywood script writer couldn't write a story this, intricate and this, no, it's, come on. Okay. So they raided his house on his private island and they found some tapes. Of course, y'all saw early on, about a month ago, the pictures having a barber chair in the bathroom with straps on the chair and all that kind of stuff. You go back and watch the pictures. It's crazy.
Interview recorded on Epstein's private island in the Caribbean before he was first charged as a sex offender in Florida is shedding new light on how this man was viewed and how he built his major wealth. Joining me now, the man who traveled to Epstein's private island and spent hours with him, former Wall Street Journal reporter David Bank. He's now editor and CEO of the digital media company Impact Alpha. David, back in 2003, you were a philanthropy reporter for the Wall Street Journal. What attracted you to Epstein, and why did you want to do a story on him? There's a lot of rich people out there that give a lot of money. Why this guy?
Well, he came to me, as a matter of fact. So there had been a story Yes. I mean, there had been a story that came about in New York Magazine after he had flown former President Clinton around on his jet. So that sort of brought him to attention. And I think that put some reporters on the trail. He thought, I think, that some of them were going to be unflattering. And frankly, he came to me and said, come down to the island. I'll tell you everything. And I think he thought he could spin me and I'd write a positive story. And he certainly did try to spin me. And the story never appeared, though. So
Why? Why didn't you ever write the story?
Well, as you sort of pointed out, there is a kind of skepticism when a very rich person wants to, have it their way. So we approached.
Yeah, he's buying him some news coverage. He's buying him an article. He's buying him this kind of loophole thing that, a lot of people during the course of American history, as far as the justice system in America, have been paid off. That's absolutely nothing new, to be honest with you. Really not.
This morning, a series of new reports have focused on answering one lingering question in the case against Jeffrey Epstein, the financier who pled not guilty to charges of sex trafficking of teenage girls. How on earth did Epstein make all of his money? According to the New York Times, he had deep ties to some of Wall Street's top figures. The Times details that Epstein, quote, liked to portray himself as a financial wizard, someone whose business and investing acumen made him indispensable to corporate executives and other leaders. But there is very little evidence to support that notion. Mr. Epstein, nonetheless, managed to affix himself to a handful of prominent Wall Street veterans. Meanwhile, an article in Vanity Fair dives into Epstein's relationship with billionaire hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin and how Epstein turned personal relationships into multi-million-dollar deals for himself, and why exactly these Wall Street veterans stayed by his side for so many years. Joining me now, Bill Cohen, who also dug into Epstein's Wall Street network that in his must-read Vanity Fair piece, and the writer behind the stunning New York Times report, Kate Kelly. Kate, walk us through the network that Epstein built. The fact that the head of JP Morgan's private bank, Jess Staley, visited Epstein, not in his mansion, not at his island, but in his work release prison office.
Right. It's pretty phenomenal. So let's talk about Staley first. Now the CEO of Barclays Bank in Britain, at the time a senior executive at JP Morgan running its asset management division. When Staley started in that JP Morgan role, he was told that he needed to know Jeffrey Epstein because Epstein was a rainmaker of sorts who brought clients to JP Morgan. Epstein was a client himself in the private bank. So Staley did meet him. Epstein apparently did steer clients to Staley and to JP Morgan, dozens of them.
Being a connector isn't that odd. You get paid to be the middle guy. But when he was in prison?
Sure. So Staley, there's another important piece here touching on Glenn Dubin as well. Staley meets Glenn Dubin, who runs Highbridge Capital Management, through Epstein. And JP Morgan makes a strategic investment in Highbridge in 2004 and then buys the whole thing a number of years later. And it really helps to increase the success of that business. It grows the AUM by a wide margin, and it makes Staley and Dubin both sort of business heroes.
In order for us to kind of adequately even remember some of the names and some of the positions of the people and what firms that they work for and who they are, we probably would have to have a chart and a graph in front of us in order to make that, I'm sure you're not taking notes and writing some of these names down in some of these firms that these people kind of are associated with. Let's just move forward. I'm going to cover some other things tomorrow on the Freestyle Friday. Who was Epstein? Who are Epstein's victims? Like I said earlier, no one talks about who did this guy, who's he connected to? Who are the victims? All right. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of hard to talk about because you're listening to women that have been traumatized, and it's kind of hard to take in. If you're numb and you don't care about human life and human suffering, then it might not affect you. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyway.
Joining me right now on what comes next for Epstein's victims, as well as any of his co-conspirators, attorney Misty Morris. Good to see you back here, Misty.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so they still want some closure here.
Does the case continue on even though he's dead?
Look, the criminal case is obviously over. Epstein, that they're going to be filing civil actions against Epstein's estate. So there will be the opportunity to at least get some of their story out there to the extent that that's somehow
the investigation
cathartic.
itself, right?
The investigation.
Who else was involved? Who else? Already there've been a lot of allegations against a lot of people that were somehow associated with him or used to partake in this as well. Is more of that going to come out, and will they go after those people?
That's absolutely going to continue. So a couple of points there. So first, we have Bill Barr saying not only is he going full bore after this investigation, he's actually has a personal investment. So this is not stopping anytime soon.
If it's not stopping anytime soon, then I think in the coming weeks, I think people are going to start, and I'm going to be honest with you, just from where I'm sitting and what I'm looking at, there might be a couple of more suicides, quote unquote, the easy way out. So you never know who this man was connected to and who else is going to get brought down because of their connection. When you start talking about how these men operate in these certain groups and these certain societies on a high level, the deviant behavior that go on, of which I really truly don't want to discuss, but it's very, very, very real. This is nothing to kind of scarf at or play off or act like it don't happen. Some people listening to this right now, y'all might get together on a girls trip and y'all might go to see some male strippers somewhere. Brothers may get together and may go to the strip club and you may bag a couple of whomever at the club, but we're not even talking about that. That's some petty stuff. We talking about these dudes in the sex trafficking, bringing women in and out of the country, in and out of different states. So you're talking about how many federal laws have been broken. It is ridiculous. And the amount of people that were probably involved. All right, I'm skipping past that because we only got a few minutes left. And tomorrow I want to dive into some other things. But who was Jeffrey Epstein in the past and who was he connected to? And how did he rise to this position that he's in? Just as a billionaire to get, accused of having been the number one sex trafficker in America. And then what network did he have to pull this off? All right.
Also tonight, it is incredible how quickly Jeffrey Epstein's luck has changed in his life. After getting a very light sentence for underage prostitution, he is now looking at a very long time behind bars, potentially, after he offered $100 million package to be able to go back to his nice home in New York City and be under constant surveillance. The judge said no.
He offered $100 million. $100 million. Nowadays, with $1 million and an active lifestyle, it won't even last you long. You definitely can't retire on that. He offered $100 million. Who'd you offer it to? We ever think about that when we hear this kind of language? From the Alphabet Boys, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, and all these other people? PBS NewsHour and yeah. Crusher Corpse, prove that. We don't just make blanket statements here. All right? Give me some factual information, bro. Come on back. Come on back with some information, man. We don't make blanket statements.
Now, court documents reveal that one of his accusers has a very compelling argument about her sexual slavery, and it does not look so good right now for the royal family. Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, has caused headaches for the royal family for years, but not at this level. In 2015, Virginia Roberts accused Epstein of forcing her to have sex with Prince Andrew when she was 17 years old. Buckingham Palace has denied the whole thing, but with more documents coming out, this could turn into a royal mess. Here now.
Wow. Now this is reaching all the way over into England and into Britain. All right, read between the lines at what these people are saying.
New York Post award-winning investigative journalist Maureen Callahan, also author of American Predator. Good to have you here.
American Predator: The Hunt for the Most Malicious Serial Killer on the 21st century. Who is going to write American Predator: The Hunt for the Most Malicious Sex Trafficker of Children in the 21st century? So some of y'all have sat back and have listened to other people discuss this on other platforms. I just say take it all in, piece it apart, take what you can take from it. But no one understands who we're dealing with. All right. The devil is being revealed right in front of our faces, but some of y'all still won't believe it. We have to look at this elite circle that Jeffrey Epstein operated in.
Welcome back to Velsheen Rule. New questions about the business and personal relationships of a registered sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged last month with sex trafficking of minors. Epstein has pleaded not guilty, and according to his filing made this morning, his attorney says they will appeal to the judge's decision to deny him bail. In a close look at Epstein's circle, New York Magazine examines the, quote, cesspool of elites, many of them in New York, who allowed Jeffrey Epstein to flourish with impunity, including former President Bill Clinton and ousted CBS anchor Charlie Rose. Joining me now, Deputy Editor of New York Magazine, David Wallace Wells. David, help this, I must read this. Very top of the article, this quote, it's stunning to me. For decades, important, influential, serious people attended Epstein's dinner parties, rode his private jet, and furthered the fiction that he was some kind of genius hedge fund billionaire. There's a long list of elites, some of the most powerful people in New York. Why is it, how is it that this guy was able to get so many of them in his web?
Well, I think it's a complicated question, and I don't actually feel like we know the answer yet. I think that the story is still very much behind closed doors. We don't yet totally understand how Epstein made his money. He's said to be a hedge fund manager, but we only know that he ever had one client who dropped him 15 years ago. Nobody on Wall Street has any memory of having any dealings with him at all. There's some thought that he may have been setting up tax shelters for some of these billionaires. Some thought that he may have been trafficking in Saudi money because he has relationships in Saudi Arabia. There's even some implication, kind of unfounded, that he may have some intelligence relationship either with Israel or with the U.S. I think we really don't yet know the nature of a lot of these relationships, but it's clear that he had in his network not just most of the most powerful people in New York, many of the most powerful people in the world. Ehud Barak was one of his, was close to him, Prince Andrew from the UK. Now, the nature of these relationships is similarly unclear. He seemed to have a social relationship with many of these people, almost all of whom are men. Some of them were at parties where some kind of unseemly things were happening, but it's not clear which of them were involved, to what degree, who may be implicated beyond just having a friendship relationship with him. For me, the question is, how did so many people, especially after he pled guilty to soliciting prostitution in 2008, how did so many of these people continue to associate with him in the years since? He's been really involved with Harvard, funding a lot of their scientific research. He's been a major fixture in the New York social world since. Peggy Siegel has been throwing parties for him.
And what has...
Yeah. These are the kind of people that was associating with Jeffrey Epstein, that with the stroke of a pen or something that they may say, or the shuffling of a piece of paper in an office, can determine our lives, whether in the courtroom, politics, whether it's a bill being passed, or whether it's a law being passed. But this is what they do. All right. So I'm thinking that in a minute, you're going to start to see a few more people heads on the chopping block, man. Yeah. So let's listen to this last piece and what the FBI said they found at Epstein's home, because I'm sure a lot of us don't know. And then we're going to sum it up.
President Trump is speaking out about Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire accused of sex trafficking.
He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years.
Epstein was actually banned from Mar-a-Lago, according to court documents obtained by Inside Edition, after Epstein was accused of sexually assaulting an underage girl at the club.
I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his.
And this is your first look inside Epstein's opulent $77 million mansion in Manhattan. It was featured on the cover of Architectural Digest in 1995. The mansion has a heated sidewalk so snow and ice melts during the winter. Epstein's monogram, J.E., appears right here in brass on the doorway. And inside, beneath the stairs, there's a lead-lined panic room, like something out of a James Bond movie. The FBI raid on the mansion uncovered sex toys, a life-size female doll hanging from a chandelier, and hundreds of lewd photos. Bill Cosby, who is now serving 3 to 10 years in prison for sexual assault, used to live in a townhouse directly opposite the mansion. These are pages from Epstein's Little Black Book. They were first obtained by the website Gawker. They show numerous entries for the rich and famous: Donald Trump, actor Alec Baldwin, and singer Courtney Love. Page after page are headlined Massage Paris, Massage UK, Massage Florida. Below the cities, a list of first names with contact numbers. There are 21 email addresses and contact numbers in the book for former President Bill Clinton, and he's speaking out today. President Clinton knows nothing about the terrible crimes Jeffrey Epstein is charged with in New York, a statement says. In the statement, Clinton acknowledges he flew 4 times on Epstein's private jet in 2002 and 2003. Shantae Davis was a flight attendant on the jet known as the Lolita Express because it allegedly shuttled underage girls between Epstein's homes. She told Inside Edition Clinton did nothing improper on those trips. She says she made him peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and Clinton took her shopping in Africa.
They had shut down a jewelry store for us, and I helped him pick out a bracelet for Chelsea.
Epstein has pled not.
Wow. Wow. And so the people that came against me and was requesting that YouTube shut my page down because I talked about the connection with the same people on these same lists now, in reference to Pizzagate. Anyway, this is Professor Griff. This is Sirius Mindz for Sirius Mindz. Seriously, and I hope you got something from this small little talk with the excerpts that we kind of added in to paint at least a basic picture of what's going on. Yeah. So, yeah. It's critical. So, Freestyle Fridays tomorrow. Of course, as y'all know, I'm sitting in tonight for the Sister Cypher. Shout out to the sisters. We would like more sisters to join the Cypher. Please get in contact with Quan and to make that happen. Shout out to Alex Little, aka Alex Big, of course, Cat Bookie from the BX. Shout out to my man Shane, Thug Life, Willie Whispers, Shakur, and this is Professor Griff, and we're gonna continue to piece it together as we move forward. If you've heard something tonight, or you felt we did a fairly decent job in laying a foundation and putting the pieces of the pie together, and you do not mind supporting independent media, independent press, independent thought. If you'd like to donate, you can hit the Cash app. That's $ Professor Griff, or you could go to PayPal, www.paypal.me/Professor Griff Corp, or you could just go to the website, www.professorgriff.me. Really appreciate everyone, and y'all will see me tomorrow night on the Freestyle Fridays. All right, this is Professor Griff. Love y'all to life. Peace. Of course, on the Thursday, the 29th of August, part 2 of the preparedness class. All right, peace. I gotta go. Peace. Serious Minds for Serious Minds. Seriously. Peace.